Hi there, this is Josh Heath with High Level Games. I am going to be doing some layout on and for Storyteller's Vault content this evening. The last video, which you can go back and see, we kind of went over how and what resources to potentially grab if you wanted to, do a Storyteller's Vault thing. So I'm actually going to log back into the Storyteller's Vault and get the newest art pack that came out. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick, and then I'm going to do a basic layout of one of our character sheet folios that we're going to be creating. So this one is going to be here. Instead of searching, I'm just going to go straight to it since I see it. It looks like, oh, cool. And the new art packs are there showing exactly where they're getting some of the images from, which is really, really helpful. Before this, any of the images that were in the different art packs were just defined by edition. This is helpful because now I know that I actually will be using some of the characters from this, from these books at some point. So that'll be helpful to have these images. I'm getting these to show you a couple of things. One, what the art packs look like when you get them, and then we're going to use some of this art later on in layout. I'm going to focus mostly on doing layout for the text tonight, but we'll also do a little bit of work with the art too, if I can get to that point while we're going over everything. As long as everything works the way it should. Probably going to see the text come up on the screen right now. You might not also. Not sure exactly. Okay, you can see the text. I'm going to hide this in a second because I'm going to go over it again. But I just wanted to make sure that that was up so I can pull it up and we can talk about it in a minute. Cool. So when you download this, this is what everything looks like. It is a set of zipped files in a folder. Cool, this is going to be some cool art. Looks like it's all first edition style by the looks of it. Maybe a couple of these images are second edition, but definitely a first edition feel to this, which is cool. That can be really useful in certain segments. I found that first edition images work really well for different characters that we're doing in the folios. Apologize if I'm stumbling over my word usage tonight. I'm running on a little bit of empty, but I wanted to still do one of these so folks could see a little bit of what I do and how I do it, so you can learn a little bit. And I want to get onto it before I forgot about it, before it kind of went into the background of different things that I've got going on. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to take this folder and I'm going to extract it to my desktop in the folder, and then I'm going to take the folder, I'm going to put it in my art folder, which I'm sure you're all blown away and excited by all of these steps. But I just want to make sure that I do it, that I have all of those there before I dive deeper into anything else. Cool. So there's the Storyteller's Vault stuff. Now, if you're creating a Storyteller's Vault project, you should write it all in Word or Google Docs first. I recommend, if you do Google Docs, that you, there's something good to notice, that if you do Google Docs, that you keep an eye on formatting, because formatting between Google Docs and InDesign is not going to be perfect. You can see that it's not perfect here on Word either. One of the ways that I collaborate with my other writers is we use Google Docs for all of the main writing, and then I drop it all into Word and do some of the editing and some of the last minute review and overview of the different elements of the different characters that we're creating. And on that note, sometimes you just see one or two issues as you're scrolling through it. You want to make sure when you're writing things that you do a good editing pass, that you do a good review pass. You're going to have to do a couple, 3, 4 of them. If you're not paying for an editor to do it, you want to make sure that anything you write, you give yourself a little bit of time between writing and editing so that you can edit it a little bit more effectively. Maybe you've forgotten a little bit about what you wrote, and that's all a good thing. Kind of off topic, I want to talk about the important thing here is in the last video when we went over how to do the installation of the fonts, that's not just going to work for Adobe, that's also going to give you the font for every other program that you've got on your computer. So if you want to use Gaudi, or if I've pronounced it Gaudi, it might be Goody Old Style, which is the major font that I've been using, you can select all in Word, and you can change the font to Gaudi Old Style, which is great because now once everything is in that same font, it's going to be a lot easier to do the layout in InDesign when you finally get over to that. Now, last video, you saw some of the different templates that White Wolf creates and provides, and those templates as given can be used almost verbatim. I ended up creating my own template for the folios, so I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to use that in a second. But one thing that I would like to show off first from the regular templates, when I can find it, from the templates directly as downloaded, can be helpful. I had all this stuff prepped, and then my computer decided to make a lot of it disappear on me. So now I'm having to find it. Well, I apologize for this little hiccup of finding the folder that I want to show you with the different templates. I don't know. There we go. Is this it? Aha, here we go. Okay. So, sorry that took a little bit, but we're going to pull up the 4th Ed inside template again. Okay. So here you've got your template, as we talked about before. In InDesign, you've got this Pages section. This Pages section is important for a couple of reasons, and you're going to get pretty familiar with this as you're building a book. One of the things that it took me a little bit of time to figure out was what these master things were, and what they are is they're different background templates that you're able to assign to a particular page. These are called either pages or, oh my word, what is the other term for these? Or spreads. Pages or spreads. Referring to a spread when you talk about the whole left and right page, and a page, obviously, when you're talking about the individual page. But usually when you do a master change, it applies to the entire spread, though you can focus in on a single page and do a master change to that as well. So, for example, I'll double-click that, and then I can apply master to this page. A is blank, can apply that. You've got the standard White Wolf master background to that. Or I can apply the B master, which adds that green block. You can always undo apply, which is really helpful. Whenever I mess things up, and I mess things up pretty frequently, you can just undo whatever it was that you did and figure out, okay, how do I actually do the thing that I want to do to this? And so I can apply one of the other masters to this, and that's the black back page for the final page, or if you want to use this background for a large splash of a single image, you can do that as well. I use it for the back cover and occasionally, like I said, for a splash page. So I'll undo that though, because we don't really want to do that. If you're laying out a book, that's of any sort of length, you're going to want to have several pages that are designed as just text pages. So what I'll do is I'll take this page and I will insert a page afterwards using the A master, which is going to have this classic Vampire the Masquerade background to it. I'm going to put it directly after page 6, which is currently the last page. Boom. You've got 2 pages here. So that's going to give you the basic setup to start working on writing chapters, except you're going to need a text box. So over here in InDesign, your type tool gives you a little indicator you can then make into a text box. Cool thing is with these templates, it should be set up to automatically be a 2-column text box, which is exactly what you'd need for most Vampire the Masquerade stuff. You've got 2 columns in every book that's out there. I'm going to pull up the pages again. Now I've got these 2 pages here. I'm going to duplicate this spread. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click duplicate spread. That gives me an identical setup of those 2 pages on the next 2, which gives me most of what I need to work with. What I'm going to do here though is I'm actually going to delete these elements. Just click on them with this tool, the black little arrow, and then delete. Now I do that because I don't necessarily follow the exact template as provided by White Wolf for everything. I do for a lot of things, but not for everything. So if you've already got a lot of text written, you're probably going to want to have your text boxes connect to one another. And you can look up how to do this. I actually ended up Googling this fairly recently to learn how to do it, but quick guidance on that. This little yellow box on the edge of the tool, you can click that. No, that's the wrong one. No, I want to redo that. See, this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. Little minor things that I'm like, I know how to do this. And suddenly I realize I don't. But you click on one of these boxes and you see how it's created this little, I don't know what you'd call it, but this little cursor. You can go down to the next text box and click it. And you've linked those 2 text boxes together. So now any text from this first text box is going to automatically go over to the next text box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of text from here, just so you can see what I'm talking about and why this is important and why it's helpful. Because this is super helpful when you get a lot of stuff written and you're like, hey, I want to pull in all of the stuff that I have in Word into my book. Into your book, in this case. Okay. I'm going to copy this. Just a selection of what I've got. I'm going to open InDesign again. There we go. I'm going to paste it. Now, it's not perfectly formatted. A couple of reasons for that. But what you can see is that everything that I just had in Word is now over here, and it's in the same size and the same font that I had it in Word. So what you can do is you can set up in Word how you want all of this to be basically laid out, and then put it into InDesign. Now, InDesign is actually not set up directly so you can do that from the beginning. There's actually a preset in the preferences. So if you go to preferences and go to file handling, what you're going to need to do is go to clipboard handling, and you're going to want to click paste all information. If you do this, this will allow you to set up things in Word more easily, and then it will bring over most of that information, nearly 90% of that information, into InDesign. And that's the way that I have been doing most of my books now, but it's not the way that InDesign is initially set up. So what I was doing initially, and which is a totally valid way of doing things, is I was copying these segments of that suggested this is what the different styles should be. And I would do this. I would paste. And then I would go in and say, okay, cool. In Carfax. And it would be in the right style that I wanted. And I would keep this page like this pretty much the whole time I was doing layout. That way I could reference it, grab the style, copy and paste it in the section that I wanted, and then set it up so it looked correct. The biggest problem with that is if you want to do the bolding and then non-bold, that's common in layout for Vampire the Masquerade or White Wolf stuff, you are going to have some frustrations with getting that exactly right. You're going to have to go up and change the font look. I don't know what the right term for this little box is, but you'll have to go up and actually do that manually, which can be time consuming. So that's why I'm saying one of the things you can do that'll save you a ton of time is doing some of that basic formatting in Word first. So you can do all this bolding, you can do the spacing in a way that works best for you. One of the things that I like to do is I like to have this spaced out 1.15. It gives a little bit more space between all of the different content, which looks a little bit better when you finally put it in InDesign. So that's maybe a little bit of rambling about this, but I think you can see the benefit of doing those two things, of creating the pages. So we talked about creating pages, how to duplicate a spread, and what the different masters mean. Also, I think helpful to know that if you want to keep these text boxes connected, you can keep doing so. You can do the same thing. You click on the lower right-hand square here and just click into the next text box. And you can go through your entire document. You can basically create, okay, I want to have an effective layout of 100 pages, 200 pages, however many pages you think you're going to have of your book. Create all of the different spreads for that, and then copy and paste from Word and drop it all in. That's not going to be the perfect way to do a really long book, because you're going to want to have chapter pages, and you're going to want, which are these paragraph style pages, you're going to want to take those particular pages and put them throughout as well. But you can change any of these pages to the different master at any time. So you can do that. And what's cool is that's going to keep the text box, and the text wrapping is still going to occur, or the text continuation is still going to occur. And you're going to be able to go from that and then re-edit it to make sure that it looks the way it's supposed to. Move it around, move the text box around. I'll show you all of that in a minute. I have already built a template for these folios that we're creating. So I'm not going to use this basic template for that because I don't want to kind of redo the work that I've already been doing. But I wanted to show you folks a little bit of that basic layout information. I'm going to get into some more in-depth things with some of the art and things like that in a minute, which you're going to be able to see through kind of the process that I go through to create these books. So I'll click on my title. Here you can see that I've got my title, the words, obviously, and I've got the cover image here in this file. So I click. You might notice that as I'm clicking on different boxes, and it grabs these different wireframes. Most of these wireframes are provided in the templates. So all you've got to do is click the templates as you see them, and go and just fill in the information. So I click in here. This is going to be folio 5, which is Schism. And what I do, because it drives me nuts if I don't do this, is I'm going to delete the old cover image. Now, I haven't actually decided what image I'm going to have for the cover here yet. So I'm going to get to that later. Usually I do that first or really early on because I've often sat down and thought of, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the cover design or so forth and so on. This particular time, I haven't planned ahead for that, so that was probably not a good decision by me. Anyway, one of the things I'll do is I'll go through and I will edit out things that I know are going to get changed. So we're going to change our special thanks probably. Each of these folios is now, we're going to update that. It's going to be Schism. One of the cool things with these text boxes that I've discovered is you can right-click them and go to text frame options. Text frames, it's not, nope, I'm wrong. You can click it and go to object. Text frame options, yeah, it is text frames options, I think. This is the truth of my process, folks, is sometimes it's clicking around and figuring out, oh, this is what this does, and realizing I don't remember where some of the things that I work with are on a layout to layout basis. Anyway, the thing I was looking for was effects. To create this nice sort of fading, almost three-dimensional effect, you want to go to bevel and emboss. Ooh, you may not have been able to see any of that like furkling around that I was just doing. I'm not sure if you could. I'm going to do it again. Go to I keep going to text frame options, and I don't know why. Go to effects, right? And then bevel and emboss. Okay, there you go. And then you can do a lot of different things with this. Create drop shadows, inner shadows, and you're going to change this. And you can play around with these and create some different effects. That's all I was going to say about that. Went a bit longer than I anticipated it would. That's all right. I'm going to delete this image. What's cool about some of these images, this is actually from the 4th edition book, is you can move these around, and they're actually designed from the beginning to fade into the background, which is kind of neat. Anyway, I'm going to delete that for right now. because I'm going to come back to that and do that later. And update this. You know, and now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, this is the 5th one of these. What am I doing? Oh, you know, this is a wrong chapter. I'm a chapter ahead in my layout. So I was thinking this is the London chapter. This isn't. This is the chapter that is about the Assamites joining, specifically the Viziers and the Sorcerers joining of Camarilla. So here I am writing this as if this was set in London, and it isn't. This is something good for me to check on. You're getting the full process here, folks, where I know, okay, this is the section that I'm talking about, but I don't actually remember where this chapter was set now that I'm thinking on it. Right, it's in Jordan. Amman, Jordan. So one of the things that I try to do is have all of the writing done outside of InDesign, because InDesign is not a word processor. However, once or twice I'll come across these random things where I'm like, oh darn, I really need to write whatever it is that I'm thinking needs to be written here. And then I do so terribly because, like I've said 1,000 times, it's not a word processor, it's not designed for it, but sometimes you just do it anyway. So one thing that I would like to point out at this stage is that at the bottom of the screen here on these A master pages, you're going to have, it's just going to say something like introduction or book chapter here or something like that in the template. I may change these to the chapter name. And you will have to, in the templates, you have to click on these. You have to click on these boxes and then right-click them. Actually, you have to click on the page in the spread. Then you have to click Override All Master Page Items. That will let you directly interact with these boxes because these are set up so that it numbers automatically and it lays this out automatically. I know that there is a way to adjust this information in the master so that I didn't have to do this manually, but every time I've tried to do that, I've messed it up. So I just do it. What the heck? Okay. Well, okay, I don't know exactly how I messed that up. Right. This is why a lot of this stuff I just kind of muddle my way through. But anyway, am I even spelling that chapter name right? I don't know why I keep looking at this. You're really seeing all of the bad parts of this process right now because I'm fumbling on everything that I'm doing. which is not good. It's not a good look. Right now I'm looking up the chapter again just to double check. Okay, I am actually spelling the chapter's name correctly. SCHISM. Yeah, I am. I don't know why I worried about that. But anyway, I'm going to go through and I'm going to adjust that on every one of these pages. So I've set up this template so that I can just come in here and do that, and it works for me. And like I said, I do this every time I lay out one of these particular books. I'll come into this template and I'll make all of these little adjustments as I'm going through. The good thing is because I've set this up so it's set up mostly how I want it, I don't have to do as much work as I did when I was first kind of grabbing the templates and designing all of this to do what I wanted it to do. Most of you probably aren't going to be creating serial projects like this. So the good thing is once you've got a lot of this set up, you can just go with it. One of the things I'm going to point out here on the back page that's helpful for you to know is that these are linked items, the 20th anniversary edition, the White Wolf symbol. It might ask you to link those items. In the last video, we talked about linked items, and those linked items are in the folder with the templates. So if you, for some reason, lose them or they keep saying that they're not working right, you can go back into those folders and find them. One of the things that's really helpful that I do a lot to make sure that things look right is I'll go into View, I'll go to Screen Mode, and I'll go to Presentation. That lets me see what this looks like if it was actually like the PDF that you're going to be seeing at the end of all of this. Okay, so I've got a lot of the template-y sort of stuff set up. Now what I'm going to go through and do is delete all of the images that are in this old template. And again, you can just go to the black arrow, click the image, delete it, delete it. And if any of you know of a way to do this quicker and easier than the way that I do it, I would love to hear it. Don't do that though. So what I just did, so you know, is I grabbed the text box by accident instead of the image. I'm going to move the text box a little bit so I can grab the image. I'm going to get around to talking about how you move these around so they don't look terrible in a second. But I want to just have this mostly cleared up before I get into that, because I can show you when I'm doing the actual layout. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here and I'm going to select all the text and delete it. All of that text that was in here before is gone, which is great. Because now what I can do, I can grab all of the text from here and I can paste it. In theory, this is going to go through the entire document. Yep. So now all of this is basically set up the way I would want it to throughout the entire document. one of the things that's helpful to know is that I said that, right? Like it was going to be the way I wanted to. And then I see things like this, which show me, okay, my writers probably didn't use the, well, me in this case, because this is a character that I wrote, didn't use the template correctly. So these are not actually templated right. So I'm going to have to go back into Word and adjust this whole segment so that it's correct. Because doing it in InDesign is going to be a pain. Looks like everybody else is basically correct though. So just Tigurius got messed up. I'm going to do undo paste. Go back into Word. Try to figure out what happened to Tigurius. Well, one thing I'm seeing is that there was an entire segment of writing on Tigurius that I did not see that I needed to do. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making sure that the paragraph spacing is correct on this character. So hopefully when I put it in a second, it's going to be correct. It's going to be set up in InDesign correctly. All right, so I'm going to take it, try this again. Going to click in the box, I'm going to paste. Go back up to Tigurius, and now you can see that it's all spaced right, which is sweet. Now, if you need to adjust any of this spacing, this box up here in the upper right-hand corner is the box you would need to do that. Clicking this will move everything in a couple of points on the page. And what I was doing when I was first doing layout is actually manually going through and moving these over a little bit. And here, I still forgot to add the role-playing hints, but that's all right. I'll get that in a second. We'll go in and I would adjust each of these individually. I'm not really so keen on doing that at the moment. I think it looks fine. Let me show you what it looks like without it. I think that looks fine without having to do any separate indent for the actual character statistics segment of it. But if you want to, you can use that button to adjust it, or you can adjust the top line for any of the different sections, or you can do the bottom line is indented. This gives you a lot of different options. You can do all of the different sort of justifications and alignments that you would do. So some of that stuff we're going to play around with. I'll show you in a minute. But we will get to that as we get to it. Anyway, I've got this basically set up here. I want to show you how to drop in an image next. And then from there, I'm probably going to stop this video just so you don't have to see me flailing around breaking things that I've already should have had done. But what I'm looking for right now is an image for Ian Carfax. So one of the things I look for is the image. I said, okay, this is Carfax. Is there any art that we've got in any of the art packs that sort of looks like Carfax might look? That's maybe not exactly a Carfax, but that's not a bad Carfax. Look through, do I see any other? This might be a better Carfax. I think that's a woman. Could be not. Just be a gentleman. I think I liked my first instinct in going with this image for Carfax. Now, If the actual image that represents the character is an option, I recommend using that image, but a lot of the times the images for these characters aren't going to be available in the art packs. If they are, use them. If they aren't, there are other ways of getting around it. So one thing you want to make sure you do is you wrap the text. So it looks like this little egg button around the image. So now all of the text is going to wrap around that image of Carfax. That's not right. Okay. Now, what I like to do is I like to try to have the image near the image section on the character. Sometimes that doesn't work. So what I'll do is I'll do a few adjustments of where I think it should go. I like to have the images before the actual character statistics. I think it breaks up the story to the information about the character a little bit. Maybe that's going into more than you need to know, but that's just my process. Something I think is helpful to be aware of. So there you can see Ian is basically laid out here. All of his information's there. I don't have to worry about any of it. And you can tell that's a pretty decent look. I'm pretty happy with that. You might have some different, ideas or different things you want to do. But one thing that's helpful here that I'll point out, because I'm kind of rambling, I'm going to call this video in a second. But if you want to grab this, you can see there's two different ways to grab it. There are two wireframes around the image of the blue one, which allows you to move the whole thing. And then I'm going to undo move it because I really like where that's at. And then there's this yellow wireframe. The yellow wireframe is actually the image. So you can make the image bigger, but the blue wireframe will cut off the image. So I think that gives you a general idea of how that works. You can click it, double click it to get the different wireframes, and you can move it around, adjust it. You can do all of these different things to kind of play with it and see what works best for you. So, like I said, I think I'm going to leave this video at that. You've seen a couple of layers of information, the master page elements, which we talked about in the templates. You've seen me flail around and edit some stuff on the fly. As I've mentioned before, you don't want to use this per se as a word processor. You don't want to write in here. It's not going to catch spelling errors. It's not going to be really helpful to catching those things that you should have written in Word or Google Docs beforehand. We did the adjustment of some of the master page items. We did copy and paste, and we created some text boxes. If you need to create another text box, and for some reason that text box isn't giving you two columns, you can create a text box and right-click it, and text frame options gives you the amount of columns that you can create. If you have two columns, that's going to give you this classic White Wolf look and layout. Okay, that's it for me for this evening. If you have any questions about this stuff, you can shoot me a message, give me a comment here on the video, or let me know I should cover something else. I'm probably going to do another one of these that's hopefully a little bit more straightforward, but I'm going to throw this one up at people. And like I said, if you have questions, let me know what those questions are so I can try and answer them for you. All right. Have a wonderful day.